Are y'all ready to get this started? 3, 2, 1. Hey, I know what time it is.
You know what it is.
You are now tuning into the best business radio program in Central VA.
Turn it up.
On the mic with Mike on WJFM Radio.
All right, good morning. This is Chris Mayfield with the Fusion Hub. Welcome back. This is our March 2022, I think that's right, edition of our nonprofit summit. One of the reasons that we do this is, like all businesses, the nonprofit world is competitive. And because we love our community, we find every way that we can to bolster or enhance our nonprofit community. So this monthly summit is an opportunity for nonprofits and other interested parties to talk about what they do and the lives that they impact and why they do them. So with that, thank you all for joining us. And if we could start with a brief round of introductions, just name your organization, what you do.
Hello, my name is Daniel O'Brien, Vice Chair of Virginia Ability. So thank you, first and foremost, for allowing us to join your group today and join this forum. As my day job, I work for Dominion Energy in our construction group, building new power generation assets, really with our mission towards a sustainable future. So solar, wind, natural gas, renewable assets across the region. So thank you.
I'm Sean Smith. I'm also with Virginia Ability. Started off as on the Community Advisory Council, moved up to the board here recently as the secretary. Thank you for allowing us to be here. My day job, I work as the state director for the Virginia Association of Area Agencies on Aging Senior Medicare Patrol Program, which is a fraud prevention program that we run for Medicare.
All right, I'm Bob Lancaster. Thanks for having us. With Virginia Ability and recently retired from the Federal Reserve System after 25 years. So I'm enjoying a lot more volunteer time with the nonprofit. And I've actually been on the board since 2016. Spent 3 years as chair and just rolled off. And we're an organization, and we'll talk more about it, that's been around for about 25 years now.
I'm Stacy Shaw. I'm the executive director of the Bird Theater, which many of you know, in Carytown. And I've been there in June it will be 2 years. So it's been a very interesting time to come in.
Historic
Bird Theater. It's
right.
been there since 1928.
Couple days.
Couple days.
Yeah.
I'm Shep Roper. I appreciate the opportunity to be here as well. I'm the director and co-founder of a nonprofit called Beyond Boundaries. We do outdoor adventures for individuals with disabilities, at-risk youth, substance recovery groups, and veteran programs.
Oh, excellent. I happen to be a 24-year Marine Corps veteran.
Thank you.
So I love those types of programs are near and dear to my heart. So
let's get some.
let's connect.
There we go.
All right. So one of the important things that we have to understand about nonprofits, and the reason we love to do these is because we hear great things about how nonprofits and businesses that support nonprofits impact the community. What are the actual, where the rubber meets the road, who do you serve, why do you serve them, and what are the outcomes that you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think we like to kind of answer it in twofold. One, it's all about the participants, who we're getting out, not having these opportunities previously, and we really kind of work on independence and self-esteem and confidence, as well as how to interact socially in the community. And then the other really goes towards the volunteers and how we create an inclusive atmosphere to really, what we like to say, see people for their abilities rather than disabilities. So we get people together in a fun environment, and we get to understand that there's so many things we have in common rather than maybe that one visible difference that separated you from socializing previous.
Yeah, that's the concept, and I think it's a pretty pervasive even in business, or especially in business, is we rarely view people for what their strengths are.
Yeah.
We generally will look at people for what their weaknesses are, and then we try to make them better at that thing that they're not good at, which is, I think, completely backwards, right? Yeah. Why aren't we embracing our strengths and allowing people to grow in the things that they like to do and they're good at? So thank you, man. That's some great work. Appreciate it. Bird Theater.
The Bird Theater. Well, as I said, we've been around since 1928 and have always been what I consider sort of the economic engine of Carytown. And so I think that's one of the key components of the theater being open and remaining open, even during these challenging times. We serve a multi-generational audience. My favorite thing is when people walk in the door and they're like, I was here with my grandparents. Yeah, I remember what I saw, and so what we've been doing is focusing on reopening, as you can imagine, and also finding ways to create access for the community. So I've been talking already with these great gentlemen about ways that we can work together, because we've already been working with programs for people on the spectrum, people with disabilities. Since I started, that's sort of my history in working with theaters, nonprofit theater, and most people don't quite realize that we're a nonprofit theater. We do have to raise money every year to keep our ticket prices low, and we're very proud that we've been able to create access all these years. So we're committed to that still. And, I think one of our outcomes in the way that we look at it in terms of metrics, of course, how many people attend and what kind of wraparound programming we can do for our events, because we're not just showing any film that comes along. All of our programming is curated, so you can see the films that came out since the theater opened, and you can really need to be seen on a 2-story screen to enjoy them, but also introducing people to a multitude of types of film, and then having educational components around that. So
when Mike King, who unfortunately is not here today, Mike King Biz, he says that saving the world is not cheap or free.
Right. Yes.
And so when you talk about fundraising to keep ticket prices low, what are some of the ways that you are fundraising, and what can you invite our listeners to do today to help you keep that price so that it's affordable in your community?
Yes, thank you so much for asking. One of the things that we've done during this period of COVID is we added some donor benefits. So one of them has been a private screening for small groups of people, and depending on how many they wanted to bring. And that allowed a special experience for those donors during that time when people couldn't see each other, they couldn't get together. And I think the value of feeling normal going into a movie theater, especially the Bird, because most people remember what they've seen there or the experience there. It isn't like just a black box, if it is unique, it's one of a kind. And I have been incredibly moved since I started at the theater by watching people's reactions coming in, and just they'll start tearing up and having the Bird to themselves, if you will. It's a very special feeling for the people in this community. And also we've been able to bring in folks that might not have been able to come out to anything. We did some special showings, private viewings for people who are immunocompromised, for example. So any donations that folks offer to us, we put it back into programming and to making sure that we have a stable organization. We also allowed, as one of the donations benefits, you can put a private message on the marquee. I'm happy to say we've had 21 successful proposals, and so the staff we are very proud of that, and the staff gets very engaged in helping make sure everything goes off as intended. So that's been a great way to bring folks in.
I bet you never thought you were going to be in competition with online dating.
Right, exactly. No, definitely not.
But here you are,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. And
so need drives innovation.
Yes,
so there you go.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things too, especially during this time period, like a lot of companies, like you said, the sort of business plan, had to be thrown out, and we've created a nimble business model so that we can turn on a dime based on what's happening with the pandemic, and particularly our biggest challenge right now, and this is where fundraising helps a lot in terms of helping us stay open and remain stable, is that our industry has changed. The whole film industry has changed during COVID. The minute that distributors started releasing films on distribution channels that you can watch at home, on the same day that you could see it in a movie theater. And there's been a huge proliferation of streaming channels. And we used to be, half of our program was second run, and that window has disappeared. So we have to be very careful about our programming right now and what we're doing. We've always been careful about it, but this is a whole new game.
Yeah, game changer.
Stacey, I was curious if you have access to maybe hard-to-find films. The reason I ask is there's a great documentary on the Americans with Disabilities Act that I've seen, and it's tried to get it, but it would be wonderful to try to do something around that. I don't know if the Bird has access to kind of hard-to-find documentaries.
We do. Thank you for mentioning that, because we are, interesting enough during this time, because I like to make sure that we're working within the community and we're really part of the fabric of the community. I mean, the Bird Theater really is an institution where, belongs to the whole community. That's the way I view it. And my goal every day is to be the best steward of this institution that people have had so many memories in. And so part of the way that we have created accessibility is through working with folks with disabilities, folks on the autism spectrum, even on a one-on-one basis, and then working with film festivals. We worked with the Richmond International Film Festival, especially during the first year of COVID. They might not have had a festival at all, but we made sure that they were able to be in there in the fall, and this year they were able to celebrate their 10th anniversary. But we get a lot of documentaries from many different countries, and we just worked with Disney actually to get access to their vault of things. Not everything. They're very careful about that.
Sure.
But we just showed a film, Unsilenced, yesterday, and we had a former VCU professor there to talk about the film afterwards. So we would love to do that.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
If we can help in that, I would
Yeah,
love
exactly.
to partner and kind of help figure out how we can do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, again, Bob Lancaster, Virginia Ability is probably one of Virginia's best kept secrets, so I'm super excited to be doing this today. Like I said, we've been around for 25 years, but I think the reason we're not that well known is we were founded off of a presidential commission called the Business Leadership Network, which followed the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, with the idea that businesses need to be engaged and involved in hiring people with disabilities. And for the act to really take hold, businesses need to partner up. So our organization was started in, like I say, the basement of Crestar Bank, and then of course was bought out by SunTrust, and they're now Truist. But so for the first 5 years, we were run out of out of the Crestar and SunTrust organization. And then in 2003, we were incorporated as a nonprofit. So we are truly a business-to-business association. We are starting to, look at how we can better close the gap on unemployment for people with disabilities. The stats for Virginia right now is 2.7% unemployment rate for everybody. And for people with disabilities, it's about 40%, a little over 40%. And we have almost 1 million open positions in Virginia right now. So huge opportunity for us to figure out how do we close that gap. And we need businesses really to be involved in that, because they're the ones that are going to do the hiring. So we focus a lot of our time and energy in working with businesses. You've seen some of the representation here. We also have Southern States, Performance Food Groups, VCU Health, all on our board. And that's how we've been able to do a lot of our outreach, is board members then take that back to their organizations, support us, and in turn, we're able to support a lot of their internal initiatives, things like, starting up employee resource groups and connecting them with resources like DARS, Department on Aging and Rehabilitative Services, who has job coaches and people trained to help clients to help them find jobs. Working closely with VCU and their program. After high school, they have a great program called ACE in College to sort of help individuals with intellectual disabilities get into the workforce. So,
I got a question. I know since the pandemic kind of threw everyone for a loop on like working from home, I would love to hear your thoughts on how that possibly increased employment for people with disabilities, where maybe transportation wasn't a factor anymore of getting from wherever you live to your work.
yeah, you would think that, again, such a great opportunity now with so many job openings to fill positions and not have to deal with the transportation, which is a huge issue. But there's still a lot of barriers, especially individuals who are deaf, hard of hearing, who are blind, just to get in the door to have that interview. So we did, and I was, of course, with the Federal Reserve for a lot of the pandemic, learn what it did for organizations. It helped them bring on the technologies that are accommodations that are helping all employees, and even things like, we need to do a better job of providing closed captioning for our internal meeting webinars and Zoom meetings. So I think it did help in that way, sort of help organizations better understand what we need to be doing to support all of our employees.
Yeah. Okay.
I think just to add on to what Bob said, even those systems that they're putting together for technology for current workers, how do we integrate that into attracting new workers? And is that same kind of technology embedded in our human resources systems that allow people much easier access to apply for the job, as well as, navigate all the barriers that come along with, the application, the resume, and the technology that's embedded there. But I think, one of our main customers, or who we focus on a lot, are the businesses, and making sure that we are providing resources to them. And one of the key ways that we do that is through a lot of education. We do a number of programs throughout the year to bring information to businesses to kind of dispel the myths that are associated with people with disabilities working, as well as just really breaking down whatever barriers that are there that are existing. I work with the ERG group, so hoping will give us some more insight into what are the actual things that individuals are experiencing inside of these corporations and companies that we can help then craft programming around, so that we can provide that information to other businesses to help them open those doors a little bit better, so that people can walk through those doors and get those jobs that are out there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sean. And one of the main initiatives that really fits within our mission of increasing the curve of disability employment in the region, especially in this region of Virginia, but really statewide, is our broader goal. We're kicking off March 30th, I believe, an ERG consortium. So employee resource groups are really that grassroots effort within a business, whether it's a large corporation like Dominion or Performance Food Groups. But even with smaller businesses and mid-sized businesses, we really want to encourage that internal dialogue, because that creates opportunities within the business that we can help connect people, educate them on how to take an idea or an initiative and broadcast that through an employee resource group. That gets leadership at a particular company engaged if the people within the business are talking. We love to connect our message to leaders. We love to connect our message with people within the business, but if that message is coming from within, it creates even more power behind the message. And we can showcase stories, we can help educate people on how to start an ERG. That's one of the main focuses of our consortium this year. It's been kind of a loose association in the past few years, but we're really pushing to formalize that and then grow the outreach network that we can reach this year and beyond.
What, I guess, is the one of, or perhaps the biggest misconception of employers about hiring someone with a disability? I own a small business, right? And I look at the activities that I have to do as a normal course of business, and I talk to a lot of business owners, and generally their concern is focused around physical limitations, right? Can I get a wheelchair in? Will they hear the fire alarm when it goes off? Those are legitimate business concerns that may be preventing people from hiring folks with disability, but my guess is that's probably only a small fraction of folks with disabilities. So if you had to leave a message for employers today that would encourage them to reach out to you to hire someone with a disability, what would that message be?
Yeah, I think that the misconception is that accommodations, providing accessibility is expensive, and it's not. A lot of the solutions, can be no cost, or low cost, even things like a lot of organizations, again, that help all employees, do the raised desk and be able to move throughout the day, supports, good for individuals who deal with chronic back pains and things like that. So again, if you think it as universal, the things you're doing really help all of your employees, and the cost for an individual accommodation is typically, very, very small. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the biggest message, is like get past the thought that, it's going to be expensive for me to hire an individual disability. They may be deaf and hard of hearing, and not really understanding what types of accommodations, need to be provided.
Interesting.
I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown, and a lot of times people hear the word dis in disability and think that can't, when if you just kind of jump into an inclusive atmosphere or participate or socialize with people with disabilities, you realize that dis is very small,
Right.
or it could be accommodated pretty easily with things that maybe you're already doing. So I think just starting the conversation, starting the interaction is already going to have a lot of ease for your peace of mind, and then your brain starts opening up ideas of how employment is very possible with maybe just a few tweaks, if at all.
Yeah, that was well said.
Yeah, the number 40% is kind of startling,
Yeah.
particularly when we are at what amounts to full employment. And it's, if you're an employer struggling to find good quality employees, man, I can't think of a better way to go.
Yeah.
And if the cost is not prohibitive, then, man, it makes all the sense in the world to me. I mean,
Yeah.
geez, outside of those barriers.
It's unfortunate that line, I don't want to say it's been a flat line,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look at even over the past since the ADA, has not progressed that much. So the unemployment for people with disabilities really has not changed a whole lot.
Interesting. So it does not fluctuate with the market like most
Right.
employment numbers. That's very interesting. What's the reason for that, do you think?
I think it's the perceived barriers, the challenge for just to get somebody with with a disability, not seeing the abilities and the talent of that person. And, again, just getting past those barriers, the education piece of it.
Interesting.
I'm sort of curious. I'm
yeah,
going to ask, do you all offer resources for small nonprofits like ours in terms of making those concessions and helping to, purchase some things that we might need to decrease the barriers?
I think there's one exciting program that we work with DARS on. DARS offers an internship program. It's a fully paid internship program that DARS actually funds. Virginia Ability can certainly help connect nonprofits and other businesses with those opportunities. But what that program really is, it's funded through DARS. It pre-qualifies people with disabilities for certain jobs, and it opens doors through a question. Do you want to have someone come on board and do a job for you on an internship basis, whether that's 10 weeks, 12 weeks, things of that nature? You simply have to open your door and allow that person to come in and do the work. They're paid through DARS, they're insured through DARS. So that's one exciting opportunity, I think, that we've been involved with. Another one that I would say is a success story that's been developing over the past few years is a specialized recruiting program. We work with a company founded by an individual named John Robinson, who is disabled himself, but he created a artificial intelligence-driven recruiting tool specifically targeted for people with disabilities. So one of the outreach and education efforts we have as Virginia Ability is to educate businesses about how to use that recruiting tool, how to open your mind to when a job is open, when it's posted. You've got LinkedIn, you've got Monster.com, you've got other recruiting resources out here that people are comfortable working with. This particular tool works the same way, but it offers people with disabilities a way to showcase their talents among a pool of people and engage in that way. So if you recruit through that tool among all the others, you're more likely to find a candidate among the many candidates that could be qualified for that job.
That's so great to hear, because as I've been having to rebuild the staff at the Bird, because when I started, I was down to one staff member because of the PPP money had run out, and we paid folks as long as we could. But I've really been trying to find places to, put postings for jobs in an effort to create more of a diverse staff across the board in terms of diversity, and that's been one of the things I've wanted to know, like, is there a place I can put this, instead of just Indeed.com, for instance, and get flooded with, folks. So that's really helpful to know.
So for anybody in the region that wants to interact on that basis, you can certainly visit our website, virginiaability.org, try to gather resources, information on how that works, and we're always happy to reach out directly by phone or in person as well. So,
And as a business owner, that actually is a great tool to help me grow my business, right? Because one of the barriers to growing my business, or I'm assuming any business, well, I know any business, is you have to pay people, right? And so you're constantly walking a line of, well, I need this capability, or I need this function, but I can't afford to hire for it. So like right now, I desperately need a content person, right, for my business. I need it, but I can't afford to hire somebody at $60,000, $70,000 a year, right, or sign a contract with an agency for $30,000 or $40,000 a year. That's a bridge too far for me. That's also $40,000 less that I can give to nonprofits. That might be a good bridge, right? It might give me as a business owner a capability that I need, help a person with a disability take advantage of the program through DARS, helps me grow my business while gainfully employing someone with a disability. So, I mean, that you may have the best kept secret in business.
Yeah, but a lot of the services are available for free from the Virginia Department of Deaf and Hard of Hearing, blind and vision impaired. Of course, DARS helps with the whole career pathways. But say an individual, just to sort of get acclimated to the job, needs a job coach. That's provided at no charge to the business. So, there are just so many resources out there that don't cost you a penny. Mm-hmm. Organizations will, any of the agencies will come to your place of business and look it over for accessibility. Are there things that you can do better to make it, more accessible and a more friendly for anyone type of environment? So, yeah, it's a lot of stuff out there for no cost.
We partnered with the Department for Blind and Vision Impaired, and when they have their students come in the summertime, one of the resources they provide is job training and job coaching, and they set up mock interviews. So we, did a mock interview with somebody, and it was very eye-opening in the sense that I think that's a great skill for everyone to work on, no matter what. But also from the interviewer standpoint of like, what questions are you asking, and what's the goal of finding those questions? Because if it's strictly job-based or skill-based of like, well, what makes you right for this candidate or this position, or what skills do you have that is a good fit? More of like, why do you want to work here? What would you provide the business that maybe another candidate wouldn't? And trying to get more to the root of the person, because we all need to build up our resume until we get the job that we really want, or the skills to move us on that track. But if the business side of things doesn't change how they're hiring or why they're hiring, it feels like we're just kind of doing, running the same race. Yeah, which is maybe why the employment rate hasn't really changed that much over the years, because maybe it's on the business side of things to also change as well.
Because when you hire as a business owner, can you meet my need today, and do I potentially think you can grow? Do you have the strengths that I need today and the strengths that I'll need tomorrow? And so for me to hire somebody that I might potentially have to train, if it costs me money, I may not do that. But if it doesn't, I may do that. So that from a business perspective, that would be a huge incentive for me to hire someone who may need some training, who may need some coaching, if it's affordable to me, and I believe that person can do the job after a period of time, but that period of time doesn't cost me a great deal of money. So I think that's, again, the best kept secret in business. I wish I'd known about this 3 years ago, man. I probably would have 10 times the amount of business I have today. So I'm definitely going to follow up with that. So it kind of interesting, the dynamic between the outreach and the group that you serve inside the community for each of you is a little different. So what I'm curious about is just on a personal level, how did you end up where you are today? Why is this important for you? Why do you get up and do what you do every day? Because we all know it's not the money, right? There's no money in nonprofit work. So there's something else. What is it? What is that something else for you?
Specifically in the outdoor field, like I just know how much I personally benefit from just being outdoors. I think the last 2 years has probably opened up a lot of people's eyes to how beneficial nature can be. And when people didn't want to get together indoors, outdoors was a safe and welcoming place, but it's not always accessible financially or physically. And I think that what I get from it from a personal level of just challenging myself and having a sense of accomplishment and all the benefits to recreation, I know that there are way too many people who don't get those opportunities. And as for when I recreate socially and not as a business, I realize that there's a lot of people I don't see out in the community doing these things. And when we founded Beyond Boundaries, that was a big driving force behind our momentum, was how do we get more people out there? And we have seen countless times of just groups and individuals, it's almost 100% retention of coming back every year because they see the benefit for their participants, which these opportunities weren't available or they were told they could never do them. There was never a support system. I was very fortunate that I grew up in a household and an environment that was very supportive and encouraging of go out and do this and challenge yourself and succeed and fail and do it again. But a lot of the times when we found that when it comes to disabilities, there's a lot of medical stuff that goes on, and maybe that sense of push isn't there as much, maybe rightfully so and maybe not. But we've found a lot of caregivers and parents and spouses that have said, man, I never thought this was going to be an opportunity that he or she could have done. And just that will live with everyone forever. That's the ripple effect. So that's what fuels me.
I think it's great. So I would just say I've been doing this for a long time, and for me, in terms of working in theater and nonprofit administration, has been we're the people behind the scenes, and I get great satisfaction out of watching and creating experiences for people that they will remember and opportunities for people to get together. And I think that's one of the things, particularly during the pandemic, was this, these moments of creating memories. Because I think it's better than watching TV. You remember people, things that you did with folks, and those experiences are with you for a lifetime. And I think perhaps that's some of the rethinking that folks have done during the pandemic when you're stuck in your house. You just want to be with other people. And so I think the more people we can bring together for those experiences, the better off we are. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you today because I've been trying to do some of this work just on a one-on-one basis at the theater. And so it's really great to find out about the additional resources because we are a small nonprofit. But I just really get moved by being behind the scenes, making sure everything goes okay for everyone, and they walk away with a lifetime memory.
The nurturing of memories.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I hear all the time that our life is a sum of our memories.
Right.
And that creating those moments in time that people remember is special. And so
Exactly.
I really appreciate the work you do there at the theater.
Well, thank you. And we have such a unique space. I mean, I think that's part of it too. It is different. I know for myself, when I go to see movies, I don't remember, if I go to a chain, if it's like, Theater 7, 8, 9, 10, but I remember going to a place that is so striking and so beautiful, and we are the only place in the state, there used to be quite a few organs, Wurlitzer organs, that I think it was like 19 across the state. We're the only place in the state that you can still go and as part of your ticket have the organ play, and our organist play is part of that experience. And one of the things I intend to continue at the theater as well is a long history of apprenticeship, which I think plays into what you all are talking about, is this history of having someone who worked with folks to bring them into that job. That's our organist is the same way. Our current organist has been there for 26 years, but he started playing the organ when he was learning from our previous organist when he was like 11 or 12. So he took lessons on this organ. And same thing with our projectionist. They're highly skilled and highly qualified, but through an apprenticeship type program. It's just sort of naturally been a part of the Bird all of these years. And I love that. I think that kind of passing on information generation to generation is really important.
Gentlemen?
So I'm going to go back to 2010, but this is not a long story. But I remember driving into work one day, and my daughter just started high school. The resources and support in high school diminish tremendously from elementary to middle school for individuals with disabilities. She has Down syndrome, so intellectual disability, and I just got to thinking about where I worked and would there ever be an opportunity for my daughter to work at the Fed. And as I thought about it, there are, very few people. I knew one individual, vision impaired, kind of the only person with a visible disability that I knew of. So it was, around the time we were starting up employee resource groups. So with the help of others, I founded our employee resource group for disabilities. So people with an affinity or family connection, or just wanting to support that within our organization. And how can we now be more accessible to people with disabilities to hire? So founding the Ability Beyond the Label resource group led me to meeting people at VCU and then DARS. And a good friend at DARS, who's on our Community Advisory Council, Wes Seaton, said, you need to get involved with Virginia Ability. And so that kind of led to my involvement with the nonprofit, and been doing this since 2016. So, yeah.
For me, I think having grown up in a marginalized community in the inner city of New York and New Orleans, along the way having help from people and how it impacted my life, how it gave me an opportunity that I probably would not have had they not been involved with me. I think that really sparked something in me. So as I got older, I looked at business, I looked at the corporate world, and I've even dabbled in it, and it just wasn't the place for me. And I think anytime I can help other folks have some of those light bulb moments about how you can overcome whatever it is you're working with, that's really important to me. And I think in my career, I've had a lot of opportunities to work with a number of marginalized communities, whether it's LGBTQ or people coming out of incarceration, inner city students in schools, and people with disabilities. All of those opportunities has just created more and more of a passion to help people, take a step forward. And I think with Virginia Ability, it's also giving me the ability to work on the other side, because I think inside businesses, those light bulbs are there as well, and helping them understand and bridge the gaps between those communities and what they're doing that could be systematic, or whether it's just they just don't know. How do we make those things happen, and how do we work those systems together so that everybody benefits, but also everybody's learning the same thing? I think with that, what really drives me is empowering people, but helping them to become self-advocates. And then also, I think just making sure that people appreciate other people's value. I think we all have a purpose. We all have value in our communities. We're all here for a reason, and helping people to take the time to listen to one another so that we can pinpoint what those values are and how do we get them in the right place, and how can I use what you have without prejudging you just from looking at you.
So about 10 years ago, maybe a little over that, my wife was working as a personal care assistant, and she got connected with this individual named Bill. Bill had MS. Bill was on the spectrum, but he was an inspiration. He had to live at home and work at home, and he managed to teach himself how to code, so he learned how to host websites. Bill had difficulty speaking, but he was able to communicate with his clients, who he created a network of clients on his own through email and through voice to type. And he had a successful business that he built on his own, but day to day, as my wife was working with him, she got to see the challenges that he faced on a day-to-day basis, some of the barriers that we talked about. Can you do this? Can you be relied on? And of course, the answer was yes to both. So about 5 years ago, we moved to Virginia. Always had that kind of sense about giving back. So getting connected with our employee resource group within Dominion was one way to learn more about disability employment. We have a group called Diversibility within Dominion Energy. So again, that grassroots feel for people to get connected and get involved was how I made my way through learning about Virginia Ability. And then through a board connector event at LMR, which is Leadership Mentor Richmond, I met Bob about a little over 2 years ago. And that's how I made my way in, because Bob educated me that Dominion's been involved with Virginia Ability in the past. Learning about their core mission, again, just got that inspiration going for me. So
I know we're quickly running out of time. But it is our tradition here at the Fusion Hub is to learn about our guest. And the last question is always, what gives you hope for the future?
Great question. I have a lot of hope. I think people are learning more and more about barriers to entry among all different types and members of the community. So over the last few years, I think you've seen a big drive in large businesses and medium and small businesses towards diversity and inclusion. And I think for me, people are getting more and more comfortable understanding that disability fits within diversity and inclusion, diversity of capability, diversity of thought, diversity of background. So one of our core education missions is helping people understand this fits within that model, and it's a great way to expand diversity within your company and within the community.
What gives me hope? I think, there's been a rise recently in allyship around any type of marginalized community. And I think, it moves from having empathy for a group to moving to action to say, not only am I going to support what you're doing or feel what you're doing, but I'm also going to use my influence to help change things. And I think we've seen a lot of that rise up here recently, and I think that's really hopeful, because I think that's where we make the changes, both on the inside and the outside, so that people have access to whatever it is they're looking for.
Yeah, I think, what gives me hope, one is there's never been a better time with so many open positions and so few people in the workforce for individuals with disabilities. So it's really harnessing that power. I think major corporations are seeing it and making changes. And the one thing I did not say earlier, I wish I had, is that we're really talking about hiring talent. So your point about the DIS is very small. I think businesses are seeing the talent in individuals, what they can bring to the organization, a different way of thinking, and that value that they bring to the business, and that generally they're reliable employees. They stay on.
Gosh, I think for me, I work in a business both from producing theaters across the country and now with a very important film house. The producing theaters have been around for 2,000 years, so I think the need to hear each other's stories and to learn from other people's experiences is so important to us as human beings. And so, I think there's so many stories that are going to come out of what we've all just been through collectively across the world. I'm kind of looking forward to the different stories of survival and really how people reached out to each other and ways that we adapted as human beings for that. So I'm very hopeful about that. Looking forward to hearing those stories. And again, the industry's been around a long time. We like to kind of know what's happened with other people. So, and I think also just particularly with the Bird, it holds such a place in the community that is special. And I get inspired and hopeful by watching the patrons when they come in and how they are experiencing that particular kind of beauty around them when they see a film?
I mean, I have seen how much of an inclusive atmosphere has changed me personally over the years from school on. And I think the last 2 years dealing with the pandemic and the social isolation and people realizing that there's people who were socially isolated pre-pandemic, and how much of a need we really felt to be together. And we didn't really have those opportunities during the pandemic. I think that that's what gives me hope, is that people might understand that there's even more value and more importance in these social interactions and these opportunities where we get together and we all help each other and benefit from just being together. And I'm hoping that's what the pandemic might provide as an opportunity moving forward. And that's what gives me hope, because I see it firsthand. I like to say all of our community partners and our volunteers feel it every trip that we do. Our participants obviously do. And they come back for more, and that's just, yeah, it just fuels me and gives me hope.
All right. Well, it's been a great panel. Thank you each one of you for coming out today, and I hope that if you're listening and you want to get more information, get involved in the community, reach out and connect, develop that connection, develop those stories, and develop what we all hope to be an inclusive, welcoming culture here in Richmond and beyond. But we are out of time for today. My name is Chris Mayfield, host of the Fusion Hub on ESPN 106.1, and we look forward to talking to you next month.